Okay, so what we're going to be looking to make today, or in part anyway, is this, excuse me, turret. So we'll go through some of the design process, different methods and techniques that you can use. There's a little bit on shape, language, form, of course, tools in plasticity and different techniques that you might want to do to add detail to your model, and a bunch of other stuff as well. And then we finish off with a bit of a speed art where I just sort of block in or finish off bits of the detail. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and yeah, let's get going. Right, let's get started. So I'm just gonna delete the cube, the default one anyway, at least. Zoom into the grid. Let's hit 5 on the key. I've got my grid setting to 1 millimeter, so this is quite accurate. This, depending on what you're doing, what your intentions are, adjust your metrics, so your units set up accordingly. So for example, if it's tabletop, you might want to be in millimeters, you might want to be in cm, or for Unreal, definitely cm. So 1 Unreal unit is 1 cm. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to go for some sort of like a tabletop miniature here. So what we'll do is we'll drag out a center circle. So what's the shortcut for that? Shift C is the shortcut for that. Can drag that out. Good tip, you can use the tab key here. So we can go for a base amount of 160 mils. It's quite a large model. I think in the previous one that I did, I don't think the base was the actual model scaling transitioned over quite well, so I think there was a bit of scaling needed with that. So hopefully this resolves the issue. Here with the circle itself, I'm just going to lock that off because I don't want to mess with that. This is just for a reference itself. And now what we can do is just jump into that top view, and we're sort of pretty much ready to start, getting some sort of basic features out here. So for a large scale turret, let's start with the center rect, and we can just grab this in the middle and scale this out to whatever you want. I'm going to do like sort of a box turret, keep things simple for this. I always try to squeeze the videos down to about 40 minutes or so, 50 minutes. So we'll keep it simple. So what I'll do 80 by 80. So we've got something like that. You could push it up a little bit more, but I imagine with this, you're probably going to want like bits of terrain and things around the model there. So what we can do now is we can grab this piece and we can extrude up. Now really handy in Fusion, you've got the degree amount here, so we can actually put in a angle that we want this to just sort of taper to. So it's really good for creating angles and cuts and things like that. So really good piece. So we got this here. Again, you could loft these together with a bit more unique shapes. So if you wanted to do a bit of sketching, you could loft it together. I've not really done much lofting in the videos, but I'll try maybe to do some in the near future. And yeah, we've got the shape now. So what we can do from here is we can sort of build it up. Now, one of the things that I encourage students to do is try to use block meshes first to design and get proportion correctly. And Fusion lets us do that with sort of the box feature here. So we've got a corner box, you've got a center box and stuff. And what we could begin to do is just drag out, okay? And we can sort of drag these boxes out really quickly, and we can set the size as well. So if we taper the height there, let's we should be able to use tab. Here we go. So we select this here, we can sort of like use 20, and we can sort of come in here and we can change the amount here. So maybe we want this to be a bit thinner than the base itself, so we've got that, and then we've got the width here, which is 40. I like to round my stuff off, so we've got a nice sort of section there being built. And again, with this, I've just realized I've actually attached it to the piece here. So what we can do is just go back there. Let's grab that again. Let's grab a center box, just move that up. So I think I had it was something like 40. I think this was 70, and I'm pretty sure this was 70 as well. Let's have a look. No, maybe not. Maybe it was 20. There we go. So we've got something like that. And then over on the right hand side here, you've got the different things. So what we need to do, the shortcuts here, we use B to create a new body. So if we click B, no, I'm still in the thingy mode there. So there we go. So if we click B, that'll put it into a new body. So you see the coloration changes, meaning it's not going to be attached to this. So that way I've got 2 new bodies now. So that's quite handy. The other thing that you've got to think about with turrets are the joints as well. So for this turret in particular, This is sitting quite flush here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to move it up. It should snap here. So I can move this up a little bit. So from where it is, let's use the G key and we can move this maybe to about, I would say, 2 mil there. I think that's going to be okay. So we can move that up, and then what we can do now is we can create a sort of like pivot joint or a bit where this slots in. So if you're thinking about modular design, think about sort of functionality, it's a good place to sort of have maybe a pivot for this. So if we just hide our piece here and we come to the top and we use this, we can set this to be whatever base size we want. So again, maybe it's going to be, you know, fitting of some of the bases that you're using. So typically, you know, you get 28 mil bases. Again, correct me if wrong, if you've got better base sizes for this stuff as well, put them in the comments, because obviously other people will need to learn, I need to learn as well. So if I grab this now, I can just bring this up, use the tab key, okay? So I'll show you why the tab key is important in a moment's time. And then what we can do is we can just snap this into place. So we can have maybe, I would say, I'm gonna push that to 4 and click OK. So then we can grab this piece, let's use Q, select this here, and you'll see you'll get a nice cut inside. Now the difference being here, we want to slice this but keep the tool sets as well, so we can keep both tools there. So we can click OK, and now what we've got is we've got a cut that fits in, it slots really nicely in there. If you wanted to deduct a sort of a value from this, so say, you know, you're a bit unsure whether this might be a bit too tight to get in on the 3D print. There's obviously some variation that might happen there. So what we can do is we can start from this point, use the O key, and we can just bring this in, and you can set a mil size here. So we can do -1. You can see you get -1 mil. We can click OK, and then this can extrude out. So we can extrude this piece out, which is fantastic. We can go ahead and hide each of these circles. And then what we can do is I'll just move this up. I'll grab this piece here, move it down and snap it onto the base there. And then we've got an option to just move this into a position, so we can get it something like that. And then what I'll do is just come back and I'll set that, I think I had it to 2, and there we go. We've got a really nice sort of base there. It's got a little offset there, so if you've got your different parts that you want, you can slot this in. You can make locks for it as well, so you know, perhaps maybe you want this a little bit more intricate where it locks in, so you can put locks in here. Now one of the key, a new feature that's been recently added is the section analysis, and this is a real good tool to sort of analyze your mesh. So here you can see where it just starts from the bottom. I can't remember if there's shortcuts to this, so let's just jump back into here. And basically what we're going to do is I'm just going to use the section analysis again. There we go. Let's turn this off. I'll grab this side here, and I'm hoping I could just move this through. And what it allows you to do is inspect the model to see if there's any overlap. So again, for 3D printing and things like that, it's incredibly important that you're checking to see if there's any overlap or anything, because obviously you don't want this piece not to slot in here. So you can see that quite nicely there. You know, it's set quite good, and then we can just click OK, and then we can just turn off the section analysis there. So it's a really good sort of tool. In terms of the block out then, so we started blocking this out. You know, we've got a key feature here. We can keep these parts separate for now, because if you did want the modularity, we would just duplicate this and attach it to each part, and then we can sort of begin to sort of piece this together and sort of come through. So again, we can add a cylinder maybe to the front here, and we can decide, you know, how big we want this, and then we can do a hit B, and we can just bring this out. Now for me that's way too big, so let's just scale that down a little bit. Maybe we want this set to, I think maybe about 5, so that's going to be the radius there. And that sets in quite nicely. So again, these parts are all separate, and it allows us to continue to build up. So maybe we want a section here where, you know, a part of it's maybe an entry point, or maybe it's a bit of a kickback. So what we can do is just maybe adjust this here, so we can adjust that. And because we've got our snap settings on, we should have our snap settings on, so let's get the grid there. We can snap this into place. So I'm just going to go back again there, because it should snap into place for me. So yeah, grid snaps on, so we can get that roughly there. You see it's a little bit off. We can turn that down a little bit more, so that's 0.5. It's roughly about right, so we can snap that right on sort of here. There we go. So it's really good plasticity in terms of its snap settings there. And again, once we're happy with that, we can click OK to apply. And then maybe what we want to do is add maybe a bit of a curve feature at the back or something. So we can start again with a cylinder. We can do it from about here. We can drag that out, and it's going to tell us, you know, look, currently this is going to be a new Boolean cut, but what we're going to do is use B, and then we can sort of bring that up like so. So that's all right. And then we can grab this piece itself. Let's use G, and we'll just bring it down. And for the snap settings here, for this, what we can do is use G and then V, and we can snap it to the bottom there, and then it'll snap down. So if we just add 5 to that, we can see it starts to snap down, and you can get that perfect alignment. And you know, failing that, we just move this and touch that surface there, and there we go, we've got it lined up as well. So different ways to align. Now here's where you kind of want to, with the block out, and in terms of what you're thinking, you've got to think of sort of balance and weight. So we've got a big block here that holds the form. We've got a really large cylinder here, so we need a counterbalance to this, like visually how you want to go about this and what features you want to include are entirely up to you. So again, it might be worth extending this up just so we can get a bit of balance to the visual weight. So we can click that, and I'm convinced that this is a bit too large now. So maybe what we want to do is just scale this down a little bit, and it makes it a little bit more proportional to this. And what we can do as well is look to move this to be maybe a bit more to that center point, because if this is going to be one piece now, you know, if this is all one object and it's one piece, that center point, its original center point from the rectangle that we created, is going to differ somewhat. So we can position that, and I think that already looks better. You can use your different shading modes as well. So again, if you want to see silhouettes, which are super important for your design process, I would advise just use the shaded mode here, and it's really good because we can jump in and you can sort of see now the shapes that you're creating, and this is going to be the silhouette. And again, you can look at it in perspective. You know, we can change it to the front. So if we look at the front view, you can see we've got kind of a basic silhouette at the front, so perhaps maybe we need to add some features to the side now. So it's really handy in terms of the block out process and using that. So what we could do is just jump into this front view. We could definitely try to give this a bit of a taper as well. So maybe what we want to do is make this a little bit more intricate and unique. We can possibly move this back to about here, like so. And then we can grab this piece here, and we can use the E key. We can bring this out to the surface area here, and then we can adjust the degree angle. So maybe we want something like this, where it tapers in a little bit more. So maybe about 20, a bit too much, maybe 10. So it's tapering that in. That looks pretty good. I think the angle's a little bit off though. I think this will probably have to sit a bit closer to that front area. So let's go ahead and just bring this to about here. And again, what we'll do is we'll use E to extrude. We're going to press B to do it as a new body. And then maybe we do about 5. Maybe we push it to about 10. Let's see. I think about 10 would be pretty good. And then we've got that nice sort of transitional effect, and we can sort of pull and push this and align it to this part here. Well, you should be able to anyway. So what we'll do is we'll align this bit to here, like so. So now if we look at that now, we've got again, the silhouette becomes a little bit more interesting. It becomes a bit more intricate, you know. And again, what we're looking for here is that visual balance. We're trying to constantly get that balance established in here. So again, you know, you're not always going to get it the first time. You just got to adjust things. We've got to move things about, and we just got to keep checking those different angles and different forms. So I definitely think the front view out of everything at the moment is lacking a little bit. So we need some sort of build up and some sort of detail just to vary that up a little bit. So the easiest way I think to do it is add, with the hard surface stuff and with things like this, we can add on sort of side paneling and detail. So these could be extra machine gun pieces. It might be, you know, a bit of shielding. It could be a vent or something like that. Now, plasticity is really really good in the sense that it lets us draw things on directly. So we can do a rect box center, you know, you get your corner box or your 3-point box as well, which is probably advisable. Maybe we'll do this one here. So we can just jump into that perspective view, and then maybe, you know, we want, I don't know, let's have a look, maybe to the front here. We're going to add something like this, and we're going to use B just to add it in. I think that'd be okay. Let's use the G key. Let's do block out, really basic, and then we can have a look at what we've got. So again, if we look into that front view now, we've got a much better sort of silhouette. So you can sort of see here where we've got a bit more of a dynamic silhouette now taking shape, which is, again, this is what you want. So with that, we could go a step further, and this is the first edit that I'm sort of doing to these. I could maybe cut this in a little bit. So now if we look again at that front view, we've got a bit more sort of detail in terms of what it's producing. So that's it's looking pretty good, Okay, so let's do the other side. So really easily here, you know, you don't have to do these symmetrical, but I'll do it symmetrical for the video's sake. So we can mirror that across now. And again, it's going to say, you know, do you want to cut down the middle? We can just turn that off anyway, because we don't want it attached or cut or anything. And then we've got that sort of visual weight there. So that's looking pretty good. So I think in terms of its silhouette, there's a bit more work to do. Definitely on the bottom bit here, we need to add some more features as well, similar to what we've got at the top here. So what we might want to do here is use the Alt key, and we can bring maybe something out like this. We can do an extrusion from here. Now the problem is it's going to extrude from the angle. So as a tip, what I tend to do is use the V key. Okay, so if we do extrude and then use the V key, what I can do is snap to a flat surface, or a surface at a 90-degree angle, or the angle that I want. And now if I extrude that out, you see that I get this sort of cut here. So it's really handy. So again, that's the E key, and then if you use V, we can change the angle of extrusion, use B, and then we've got a really sort of nice cut. I'm just going to go ahead and just turn off that base a second. There we go. So we can bring that sort of down here now and snap that in. And again, let's have a look at that angle. So we've got a really nice sort of flow of detail that's sort of coming through now. And again, if I wanted to sort of move this, so if I want to move this about, we can do E, V, grab that, and we can just sort of bring it in a little bit more, and that's going to cut a little bit more nicely. We can grab this piece, can use mirror, which is Alt X, the shortcut. We can grab that across, click OK, and there we go. We've got again a bit more of a silhouette like taking shape, starting to like shape up. We've got some nice side pieces. We've got a good shape to the top. Front's lacking a little bit, so maybe we add a little bit of detail to that as well, and also the back there. So you just got to block out those shapes. So what we can do is perhaps maybe for the front section we do something similar, where in actual fact what we can do, I'll show you another technique. So we can select this face here, we can use I think it's Alt R, no, let's just select that face again, it might be Control R, there we go. And then what we can do is snap in some geometry here. So we can snap in that geometry, and then we've got the extrusion. So let's just come into something that's flat, there we go. And then we can extrude out, we can do this as B, like so. And then we've got a nice piece that's sort of mapped there to that front. And again, we can sort of bring this up a little bit. So we've got a nice sort of build there now. And if we look at the shape here now, so we've got a really good shape. So we've got good shape language starting to support it. We've got quite large there. Need something on the back as well. So we'll have to add something. I think maybe for the back bit, what we go for is something similar to this. So if we do a mirror on this here, let's add a mirror. We can click OK. But what I'll do is I'll straighten up the face. So let's use R. And what I'm going to do is just snap that, and we'll just see how straight it is from the side view, like this. And we'll use this to sort of straighten that up. And maybe what we can do is just bring in this a little bit more. And you know, you can sort of experiment a little bit with the design feature there. So you've got something that's interesting on the back as well. You know, we can actually remove these as well with X. So if you select a face, you can remove them. Maybe what we do is, if we can grab both here, we can bring this in a little bit. We can grab that side and that side, and then maybe we can bring that in, and you know, it's maybe a little entry point or something like that in terms of the design. So we've got a really good sort of block out taking shape. We could, in theory as well, maybe it'd be good if that was down there, but if it is, it sort of overlaps there. So you know, we'll keep it sort of flat there for now. So we've got a really good shape, and again, if we look at the silhouette now, if you look at that, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of different angles. We've got different cuts. We've got some nice sort of size to this, and overall it looks sort of balanced as well. So even though we've got like this big detail here, it looks sort of balanced. What I'll probably do is just adjust some of these parts as well. So I can just come in, I can make it a little bit slicker, and just try to balance out that weighted section a little bit more to something like this, which is again, quite nice. So that sits quite close there, and then we've got this. So again, with this piece here, we might want to just bring it in a little bit so we can grab these sides. We can do it on the angle, keep the angle there, something like this. But we'll keep this as maybe a sort of blast shield or something like that, so it can sort of stay as it is. Again, you know, we can have that sort of here. What we could do is maybe align it to that as well. So we've got a really nice shape. Okay, so we've gone through the block out process, which is again really key for your design. And now what we need to start doing is thinking in terms of, right, how's this going to work? We've got a pivot point, which is good. So we've got the central point here, which is really good. So if we do a rotation, it should rotate from that middle point. So that's fantastic. That's sorted. What we're probably going to want to consider is, do you want this cannon to just fire straight, or do you want to use like maybe a hinge joint? So we've got a pivot joint here, and we could really do with adding a hinge joint to this. So for the hinge joint, what it might be best is to actually use this sort of feature here, okay? And what we can do is, again, we'll just use a cylinder. Let's just drag out from sort of here maybe, and then we can bring this across like so. So it's going to be something like this, all right? And what we'll do is, I'm going to use the B key so it's not attached there. I'm going to click OK, and I can just see it's a little bit off from that top there. You can sort of see that where it's not quite getting what I want. So let's turn down the snap settings and just see if I can get that sort of lined up correctly. Seems okay there. So let's do this side as well. So we'll just line that up to the face, so you can see it's got face alignment there, which is nice. And again, we'll do the same here. So let's align that up. So that's pretty good going there. So now what we've created in effect is that sort of hinge joint. So that means that with this here, so we've got the pivot, that means it can go 360-degree round. And again, I'm being a bit of a geek here, but you know, with the hinge joint included, it means it gives this cannon the angle to shoot. So you can shoot at a certain angle now. So you know, if we need to aim something like this quite closely, you can sort of do that. So again, blocking out and understanding mechanical design related to hard surface can actually really improve your hard surface modeling and what you're able to come up with. What we can do as well is check that silhouette there now, and if you look at that, that is quite interesting in terms of shape. You know, the shape language, the process of it is actually quite interesting. So the next thing that we need to do really is, we've got the shape, we need to start adding some detail to this. So what I'm going to do is, maybe we'll start from the front, and again here, this is where you can keep things organized. So what we could do is, we could add a folder here, and we could name this BG B out for block out, all right? And then you can grab each one of these, and we can use Control C, Control V, okay? So it's just created a new bunch of solids. And then what we can do is, we can group these as well, and we can have this as our detail pass. So this is where we're going to start to add detail to it. Everything in here can be switched off, just so we've got something to refer back to, and we can start to edit this. Now, in terms of the edits that you make, you might want to connect things up, you might not want to. So again, this all depends on your sort of personal preference. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to, with this here, I think it might be worth cutting this in half. I'm just going to have a look. So what we could maybe, just going to have a look. Let's do a G and just so we can move it off. I'm just looking here to see if it's going to join on right. So let's use Q, join this together so we can union that piece, and then I'll see what we get here with this. So this is what I was kind of worried about, where it's not sort of lined up perfectly. So for that in itself, what we'd have to do is maybe think about how this connects on. So what we could do is, if I just go back again and separate these pieces out here, because we're moving on the phase, is we could get a cut from here. Okay, so you can do one key. Let's do, grab this, move it down. Okay, click 5 on the keyboard, grab this, and then use C. We can cut. All right, now I can get rid of this half here. Okay, so we're just left with these two sort of pieces, still not aligning up correctly, but we'll get there. So what I can do now is I'll just isolate this view for now. We can move this back a little bit, okay, and then I should be able to grab this and we should be able to snap it in. So you can see there where the snap's not quite working. I don't think you can loft two parts together like that. Oh, there we go. So you can loft two faces. I thought they might have to work with splines, but there you go. We've lofted that together, so that'll give us sort of a nice sort of bit of detail. We can use Q, come through, and add these to one singular piece. So let's again, let's just grab them. Q, union, click OK. So it should union. I think I've kept the bodies on, so let's do that again. Let's get rid of the tools, union them together, click OK, and there we go. We've got a really nice piece there now to sort of work with. So now we need to think, okay, so this is going to be the pivot part. So what we need to do now is think of how this is going to pivot. So the easiest way for us to do it really would be to put a cut down in here. So we can do that different ways. We can grab this angle sort of here like that, right? Use the G key. Let's move this across ever so slightly. What I'll do is I'll move this. So let's use G and let's use V. And if I select that now, it should run along this path. So now I can sort of bring this in like so. Okay, so I can sort of shape this up to how I want it to be. So I can use another connect. Let's bring this across. So we want something down here. And again, we'll grab this piece, we'll bring it across, something like this, and then we'll grab there. And then what I'll do is I'll use the number 1 key to isolate these, and I'm just going to join all these up, all these points up, so we've got a solid sort of piece. And I've not done this side yet because we can mirror it over. So with that, what I can do now, let's hit 5 on the keyboard, grab this, let's use C. We can have a look and see what we've done. So you can see there, as it cut all the way through, I don't know whether that line there is just this. So what I might need to do is just grab this section here. So what I'll do is, in fact, I'll just trim this again. Let's trim that down. I'll grab this piece here. Let's use GV. Grab that. So it should, whoops, G and then V. There we go. And we should be able to just move that just to make sure it doesn't overlap there. And with this one, I'm not too fussed about it. It can come down here because we're going to mirror it over anyway. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these 2 points up like so. So you can see that's a bit crooked, but it doesn't matter because I've got the angle of the cut here that I want. So now we can select. Let's again just grab these points. Let's just make sure these are all joined up correctly. Okay, so it is. It's gone blue. Let's use the 5 key. Grab this point again. Let's use this piece. Sorry. Use C, click OK. So there we go, we've got a nice turret feature. What we need to do is mirror this across now, okay? So what we're going to do is grab each part here. I'm going to use the mirror, all right? Should be that side. And then we can click OK there. I've not merged them because I had both selected. So I'm just going to do a quick select union here. Grab this piece as well. Let's use Q, do a union. Okay, now what we can do is grab this and we can just inset that a little bit to give it the idea that there's a rotational sort of element to it. Now we can reinforce that rotational detail by putting some extra detail here as well. So from the side view, we can sort of come in here and roughly we should be able to map sort of a circle to this like so. So So we've got a circular piece. We can extrude out. Now, for this piece itself, it depends on how you want the extrusion to be. You could have it at the angle, like so. So again, it depends. But if it's on the angle, you got to think, like, does it make sense in terms of this? For me, I think it'd be better aligned up a little bit with this. So with that in mind, let's just go back into here. Again, what I want to do is just maybe isolate this piece here. So let's do an isolation. Let's have a look here. And what I'll do is I'll extrude this out like so. All right. And what I'll do as well is while it's sort of extruding out, oops, I'll change this to be B, so it's a new body. So you can still see it's still a little bit on the angle there. So what I need to do is with the extrusion is, because this is mapped to the side here, so let's just unisolate it. Let's do an extrusion B, so get a new point there, like so. And then that just gives us an idea of roughly where this is going to sort of scale. So it's going to be about here. So I need to do the angle of that as well. So again, let's use V. Let's grab this. Should be V on that side. Bring that in. There you go. And that gives us that angle now. All right. I didn't use the B key then, so let's use E. There's a lot of shortcuts. I appreciate there's a lot of shortcuts, but they do make sense when you start doing it a bit more. All right. Bring that out. Let's use B. Separate the object. And then what we can do with this now is we can grab it. Let's use mirror, and I'll select this side here, and we can just have a look at what we've got. So it's not really lining up that good. So in that instance, what we should be able to do is if we grab this now, okay, we should be able to get a center point here, and that's going to be our circle. I can get rid of that now, grab this, extrude it in like so, and then we've got that center point sort of aligned up. And again, you know, you don't have to do this, you can eyeball it, but for me, I'm a bit of a mega geek when it comes to this stuff, so I do like my sort of parts to be sort of believable and line up. So we've got that now, and if we look there, it looks like we've got a nice pivot, central pivot point for our Canon object. So that's really, really good. Here, again, you could put in a bit more cut detail. So what we could do, let's just remove this side here. All right. We could grab this, this piece here. We can use C. I can cut that out now, click OK. And then what that allows me to do now is if I grab this, let's isolate it. Okay. So you see there where it's cut through. It looks pretty cool. Can grab this side, grab that side as well. Let's unisolate everything. And what I can do is, you know, we can put either a bit of a rounded shape, and again, this is all about your shape language, and a bit more detail sort of in there, and then we get sort of a nice cut like so. And again, with this top piece, you know, you might want to put some sort of you know, bracket features on or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, turning out quite good. So we've got that central bit in there, and then we can grab this again. I think it was Alt X mirror. We can duplicate that across. Let's click OK, and then we've got something that aligns up now. So that's really, really nice. We've got the feature here. So now this is ready to sort of be attached. We can bring it down. And what I might do with this is actually just build up a bit more of an interesting shape language for the front. So we could have something like this, okay? And again, you know, hopefully you guys are looking at this and you're like, oh, add this feature, you know, and stuff. So just put it in the comments. So let's grab something like this. Maybe we do it maybe we do it about. Let's just grab here. So you do about two mil, and then we can extrude out from that, like so. I think maybe the 2 mil was a bit too much. So let's do 1.5. Think OK, click OK, or hit enter, and then we can extrude that out, and we'll have a look. So let's see where the visual weight needs to be. I think maybe about there. And then what we can do is grab this top bit, give this sort of a nice shape like so. We've obviously got to do the hole there, so let's do this at about, I think this one would get away with 2. No, I think 1.5 again, maybe 1.5 on that. Can just bring this in ever so slightly, grab this bit here, and again make it a bit more like that. So we've got an interesting shape, and then really interestingly now we can grab this piece. Let's use Q. We can do a union, okay, and then if you want to, you know, we can have a look at maybe sort of giving this a welded look or mechanical sort of detail like this, which is pretty nice. You can really push this out a little bit as well, so it gives it really nice sort of detail there. And then we can have a look at that shape language again. So we've got a really like decent connected sort of piece now. So if you look at the silhouette there, there's a lot more intricate shapes now taking place. And you know, what's that been? I mean, we've been on this now about 30 minutes. Again, I try to do like 50 minutes or something. I'll try and finish it off. But we've got a really nice sort of shape language sort of building up to this. And we're getting a real sort of interesting piece. So other things that we can go ahead and add now. So what we want to do is maybe we want these to connect a little bit better. Okay. So what we can do is maybe we'll grab this. We can connect it up like so. So what we could do is use Q, grab that, do a union, okay? So that should go in quite nicely. I'm just looking here on the side bits, should union quite nicely. We can grab this section here, and then we can do a bit of shape language like that. And again, if we have a look at that now, we've got a nice angle. It's sort of flowing a little bit better. It looks a little bit more sort of machine-like, you know, designed a little bit better. Similar to the bottom here, you might want to grab it, and what we can do is maybe grab these pieces here, and we can see what we get. I mean, I could even grab maybe this point. So what we could do, if you're struggling, just use the number 2 key or click up here, and then this allows us just to grab all these edges. What I've not done on this bit as well is I've not removed any redundant topology, so I need to do that as well at some point. So we can then grab these sort of edges now, like so. Okay, so it comes up and round, and then we can just see if we can put sort of a nice sort of edge on there. Again, nothing too big. Just have a look. We can see what that looks like. So it's really nice sort of along that bottom feature. I think this would be better if it was merged a little bit more. There's a really nice sort of feature there running along the sort of tank bit. I think that's pretty good. And what we can try and do is maybe if we use the 5 key, grab this, let's use X, we should be able to get rid of that. Let's have a look. Is it not? Okay. Don't want to get rid of it, so we just bring it down like so. So what I might actually do is let's just go back. I'll grab this bit. Let's just merge it down because we can redo this. I'll re-grab those edges because I liked that running detail around it. So it's I thought it was quite nice. So we'll grab these again. Again, we'll go around. I'm pretty sure if you grab a curve as well, let's just try this. I'm pretty sure if you grab a curve, it should do the full sort of detail. Let's just go into 5 because I don't think I joined these 2 up. Yeah, that's why I didn't join these 2 up. So let's grab that. Let's do Q. Do a union. So I'm hoping they're connected now. So if I do Q there, okay, so it's not quite going on. I think before I union it, what I'll try and do is use F. Let's use delete redundant topology. So hopefully that cleans it up a little bit for us. Let's use Q to rejoin this together. I'll have a little look there. So grab the curve there and the curve there, and there we go. So we can make that selection a lot quicker. So we don't have to mirror and stuff then. So we got now we can just concentrate on doing the sort of detail. So again, this is where you come into your preference. You know, do you want it rounded? Do you want you know, it sort of filleted, or do you want it sort of chamfered? I'm going to go with the chamfer on this one. I think it looks really cool. And then I'm going to just drop these down a little bit. This detail here. So we're going to drop them down. I'm going to make this look a little bit slicker as well on the sides. So I'm just going to push this in ever so slightly, like so. So that looks a little bit sort of slicker there. And then what we can do is I can do a circle now, We can grab from that point there, and again we can get the angle there. You can see there where it's the angle spot on, so we can bring that in. I can sort of extrude that out now. So again, just look at that shape language, grab this piece, and I wanted something sort of like this maybe. So we'll have a look at that. I think if we look at the silhouette now, that looks pretty good. All right, so we've got a nice slick design. We've got some little angles in there as well. Started to shape up quite nicely. In terms of other detail, we're not onto the intricate bits yet. We're still sort of like doing the medium. So when you sort of block out the stuff, start with, I always encourage, start with the major forms. You might do things a bit differently, but again, it's entirely up to yourself in terms of how you approach this. These are just my techniques that I feel work for me. You might have something different. Just gonna get a drink. So you might have something different that you like to do. So again, it's all about sort of personal preference and stuff, and what works for you. Again, you know, what works for me might not work for you, so you've just got to keep that sort of open-mindedness. So what I'm going to do here now, we'll get on to sort of transitional detail here as well, so you can see where we've got an opportunity to have like sort of another bit more line work here on the silhouette. So I'm just going to isolate this. Rather than just bring on and try and find the angle that I'm looking for, I'm just going to use something like this here. I'm going to use O, and I'm just going to bring this in to about here. I can grab that. You can just merge it up ever so slightly, or extrude it up, sorry, should I say. Get rid of that there. Let's get rid of this one. Just end the isolation, and you can see now we've got, in terms of the silhouette, we've got really good, it's quite a strong silhouette. It's standing out quite well. So I'm quite pleased with what we've got so far. Again, we could look to maybe put an angle on this. So if we look here, we could look to angle it maybe. So you could have it maybe a bit more like that. So it makes it a bit more interesting. I actually like that because you've got those little points there. It almost connects on, like in terms of its flow. So I like that. So we've got a really nice intricate sort of silhouette there. We've got to figure out what to do with sort of these pieces here. So we need to kind of think really what we're going to do with them. So again, we could make them longer, we could make them shorter, different types of things really that we might want to do. So let's have a look at how they're sat. I mean, if we get rid of them, what does it do to the silhouette? And you know, so let's have a look in terms of the silhouette. It makes the design look a little bit more slicker. I mean, if we bring them back, I do kind of like them on there though. I think it transitions the detail from here onto here quite well. So it sort of balances out. It prevents this from looking too small. So I think we'll keep them on. I reckon definitely keep them on. So let's have a look at what we could maybe do with them. So maybe what we want to do is we'll do sort of an intersection here. We sort of like maybe bring that in a little bit to add a bit more detail. We could possibly round the back. We could possibly maybe add sort of a bit of detail to the back. I mean, you know, or we could just maybe bring it down there. See, I think with it being there, it looks a bit too big. It looks a bit too bulky and a bit too big. So I think we'll go for something like this. We could also look to maybe add a bit more of a interesting sort of shape at the bottom. So match that top one there. So then if we just look on that there now, let's just go back a second because we'll have to redo that. Let's grab the edge, bring that in. Is it not? It's not catching that. So what I'll do to make sure these match is I'll select both. So I just used X there to just go back, and let's have a look at that silhouette with this. So I think that's probably a little bit better. Let's jump on here, and maybe what we do is we try to loft it to a shape or something. So we could potentially try to loft two shapes together. So I'll see. I don't know whether this will work out. We'll see whether it works out. See how it looks. So let's just grab this again. Let's see. So we should be able to, let's do G. I'm pretty sure you can create a copy of this. Okay, alright, so let's grab this then. Let's use Control 2. It was Shift D. That's what that was the shortcut. I knew it was something. I think I was pressing Control or something. So we've got this here, and what we might be able to. I don't know how it'll turn out, but we'll do Control 2. Let's select that. Let's do Shift D again. So we've got two of these parts. Okay. So I did say we'll put a bit more lofting in. So we'll try and loft these shapes together. So if we rotate this by say 90, okay. We'll grab that there. Let's move it slightly in. I need to do a curve, so it's going to come from the central point here and something like that. It's going to have to be. So if I can snap that into place, grab these points and we'll move them out. So let's just grab this one. Move that detail out and just try to get the angle that we're after. So what I'm hoping for is it'll sort of curve in here and kind of look quite nice. So if we grab that, grab this one, let's use L, and if we select that guide rail, don't seem to. I'm gonna have to do a couple of guide rails to sort of smooth it out, I think. So if I do another one from this point to this point. So grab that one. What it might be best doing actually, in all honesty with this, is grabbing these points like so. And I can grab that one. And then if you use, I think it's Alt S, yeah? So we can grab them and then Alt S. And what this does, it subdivides the curve. I think I kind of prefer working sort of this way instead of with the curves, because it feels a bit easier. So now we can use G and we should be able to just move these sort of into a decent sort of position like this. And probably, should we do the same? I think we're gonna have to do the same for the top as well. See what we get now. So let's jump back into 5 here. Grab that, loft. So we've got that and that. I think it's starting to shape up pretty good. Yeah, we're gonna have to loft that bit as well, I think. Let's just see what it looks like. Yeah, we'll loft the top as well, I think. So let's do the same again. Let's just go back so I can keep these aligned. We're gonna loft this bit as well. So let's grab that again. So it's a really good way to like make that sort of transitionary detail from sort of being like a hard sort of surface area. So if we use is it Alt S? There we go. Grab that one, Alt S. So it just allows you to make sort of those bits of detail that you probably struggle to get this shape, and it's one of the advantages here. Let's just make sure I'm on the correct view there. It's one of the advantages of using like sort of plasticity and things. So let's use G, and we can just move this now proportionally. This should be okay. So if I have a look now and I grab, let's use the 5 key. Let's grab these. Let's loft. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's kind of the shape that I sort of wanted. So we can click OK on that. What I'm going to do is just sort of get off these sections here now. And this is actually put it in as it's not a solid, it's a sheet. So it's put it in as a lofted sheet, okay? So if we have a look at this now, it's hollow. So what we've got to do is grab the sort of edges here. So let's just grab these nice and quickly. Use F, and we should be able to patch those together. Click enter, there we go. And then we'll do the same for this side as well. So we've got to grab sort of these edges as well. So we can go ahead and get each one of them. Use F and then patch, click OK. and then we've got those patched together, and then we should be able to attach this up. I don't know whether you could have done this between two shapes. We might have been able to guide it across with the guide rails and two shapes as well, but I suppose different ways. If you know a better way of doing that, let me know in the comments. I would appreciate it. So there we go. So the next thing we need to do is just map sort of this together now. So let's have a look. So we should be able to grab this, see if it aligns to the surface. So it's not aligning to the surface there. So what I'll do is maybe I'll give that a loft like so. All right, and then we can use Q and we can union these parts, and then I'll use F and delete redundant topology, and it just kept that line in there for the curve, I think. And then we've got a real sort of nice shape now. So if we have a look at the shape language at the top there, sort of, you know, we've got curve, and then it comes to the hard edge there. So I think that's a little bit better. I think maybe I should have brought this out a little bit more sort of here, but we are a little bit pressed for time now. So I'm just gonna make do with that sort of detail there. So we just bring this in, and then we've got an option here to maybe add, you know, some extra sort of detail there, which is good. Just have a look. I don't actually think that's attached, that's why. So let's do Q again, grab that, union, there we go, and then I'll just do the delete redundant topology, and that should be good to go. So what we can do is just merge that now on the other side. So again, you could put like little missile bits in here or something, you know, you can put whatever you want in. So let's do a mirror, so Alt X, grab that mirror there, click OK, and then we've got that piece now sort of in there, which is quite nice. It's looking pretty good. So yeah, we sort of like detailing now, so we're getting into a little bit more detail and stuff. So let's see what else we can add. So yeah, we're definitely moving on to sort of the smaller, more intricate bits. There's a few larger forms that we still need to probably iron out a little bit. So maybe for the top section here, you know, we might want a bit more sort of armament on top. So we can just add this. Let's do it. It's a new sort of body there. You know, we can grab that, bring it across, maybe a little bit closer to the front. Could definitely sort of like maybe duplicate some details as well. So when you get into the smaller parts, it's always good to sort of like duplicate, you know, sort of the smaller, more intricate bits of detail. So maybe that's a bit of armor there. Could also maybe create some sort of like screw sort of stamps in here. So what we could do is if we just go back there for a second, let's just get rid of that. There we go. So get rid of this one. What we'll do is use O, just inset that, make sure it's linear so it doesn't curve it. So let's just grab that again to something like that. So we're going to do that extrusion again like that, and then because we've got this piece underneath this here, we can just move this up like that. Let's turn off the X-ray mode. So we've got that piece there. What we could do is grab this, can do a bit of sort of detail here, something like that. Do an extrusion like so. We'll just grab this, and again, little bolt type thing. You can do a bit more detail in your one. We'll just make sure that's sort of merged down there. Let's get rid of that. And then what we can do is we do F, and we should be able to do a curve array. Select this, and there you go. You've got some really nice, quick sort of panels, panel detail on there. Probably want something like that maybe. Let's see. Do something like that. Click OK. I can get rid of that now. So that's added some sort of like, you know, studs and stuff in there. So it's really handy. We can keep one of these just for handy. So let's do Control V, Control C, Control V. Just keep one handy. And then what we can do is just do Q, and you know, we can grab each sort of shape, sort of do a union on that, just so we've got it in one object. You know, we can duplicate this across now, and maybe what we want to do just to break up the uniformity a bit is just give it a mirror along there. You can see you sort of break up that sort of uniformity there, and you know, you could even tweak these a little bit as well. You know, you can add sort of like extra additional features as well. So we could grab that, sort of, you know, bring that in a little bit if you wanted to. So you get a bit of a nicer sort of panel look. If you're going to do that, probably it's best to do it on this one. So let's grab that. Let's use I think it was Control 2 on there. Grab the other bits as well. So we'll see something not smooth. So it's just kind of struggling there with the other bits. Okay, so we just select them. Like so. Probably want it a bit bigger. Yeah, there you are. And now we can, you know, just get this and put it across. And grab this bit. Let's use Control 2. Grab that. Shift D. Let's grab the point here and just scale it in. This section, probably scale it in a little bit more, like so. And what we can do, select that. Let's do a curve array again. Grab this piece. So it's off center there. So what we've got to do is use the G key. Let's bring it in. Just align it where you want it. Quite, you know, rough there. Just get it into position like so. And then we should be able to select it, and we should be able to use that curve array. What I'll do as well, just while I do this, before I do it, is we'll bring in sort of an inset as well here to this, like so. So we can have like a bit of an inset there. And then what we'll do is, I think I extruded that. So let's just turn off this. Let's grab this. There we go. So we've got a bit of an inset, and then what we can do is just use the G key, move that into a position. Let's grab that curve that we're working with, so something like this. Oops, should be switched on. There we go. So we can grab that. I'll grab the point if I can. There we go. Should let us grab it. I didn't lock it, did I? No. So let's grab that point. So roughly about here. Then we can use the 5 key, grab this. Let's use F, curve array, select the curve, and something like that. So we've got something interesting again building up, some sort of detail there. Again, we can attach these just to keep the scene a bit cleaner, because we're not gonna move them off. Just move those down a little bit. So we've got the studs on there, and then we can use Q. You know, we can attach sort of these together like so. Use union. I keep one as well, so we can just grab this one, just keep that one as well, just spare. And then we can grab this bit. Let's use Q again, grab that, union. So pretty good detail there. We've got some good sort of like studs mapping across. Can probably, let's do a mirror on that maybe. Let's see. Just to break the uniformity up, that's okay. It's got some nice sort of, yeah, bits of detail now starting to come through. Obviously there's side bits and stuff like that we need to add on. I think the video's run for nearly almost an hour now, so I think yeah, we'll wrap it up there. And what I'll do is I'll add a bit more detail to this so you can see the finished model. And yeah, don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in sort of the next video, or I'll see you in the comments. So bye bye for now.